This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. If you want to make sure your question gets onto the show, make sure you ask the questions on the community tab when I put up the prompt every Friday or whenever you see the prompt up on Twitter. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, and then make sure you have your notifications on YouTube. Don't put your Twitter notifications on, but your YouTube notifications, make sure you do that so you can be notified when I upload and notified when I do question prompts, so you can be as involved as you want in this channel or have the best chance to have your voice heard on the channel. Now let's jump into it. We got Ralph Miller with the first question. If ESPN came calling, will you take the job and continue to put out great videos for us to watch? I mean, like, this is an impossible question to answer because it's completely hypothetical, right? I have not received any calls from ESPN or anything like that, but it is something that I've thought about. What would my channel become if somebody were to make a worthwhile offer that was a bigger company? Like, I don't know what that would look like. Right now, I know that making YouTube videos is the best way for me to get content out there. I would be cautious also of me just joining like a giant company like an ESPN or a Fox Sports, just because I have a very unique voice in this space. And I know that I am not the cookie cutter template of what they usually go for. So if I am going to hook my future up to one of those companies, I want to make sure that it's with a company that understands what it is that this show is, who this show talks to, and the voice that's important to maintain in that. Because I see a lot of people who do content creation get the first big name that comes calling for them. They jump on that and they kind of lose sight of what the original plan was for them and their show and their product. And then their product kind of just loses what made it feel special to begin with. So that's what I hope to retain. Now, will it always be in this format on YouTube? Right now, I don't see a future where it's not, but that could always change. But as of right now, I am planning for YouTube. If ESPN came calling, I don't know if I would be able to do YouTube videos, but I also know that I wouldn't just, sprint to ESPN the first time they come calling, because fortunately for me, this is a profitable situation here on YouTube to where I'm not desperate to be like at the first situation that calls my name. It has to be the right situation. So, it all depends on what the future has in store. My goal is, with any of that, to do something that makes sense for what I've built here and the audience that I've built here. It's something that is going to benefit y'all as much as it benefits me, because if you don't listen, then I don't have much value to those companies. So yeah, this is something I've thought about, but it isn't like I'm so thirsty to go to ESPN that I would just jump there to do an internship or something goofy like that. It would take some negotiation, which I don't think I don't think that is coming up. And I don't really think ESPN would be the type of company that would really see the value in me, but we'll see. You never say never. You never know what happens, but it's an interesting rabbit hole to walk down. The next question comes from Pete Highlights, who says, "What's up, Q? I'm excited for next season. What happens if Deshaun Watson can't play like what we expect? What happens next? I think Deshaun Watson will play good." I mean, like, if he doesn't live up to expectations, people are going to be upset. I mean, it's obvious what would happen, right? You can't trade him. You're just going to have to hope that he figures it out the year after. People are going to be upset. The people are probably going to get moved on from in the scramble to make this work with Deshaun Watson, because This is the bet. We bet on Deshaun Watson. And look, it's the best bet at a franchise quarterback that we have ever had. Period. It's the best bet. It's better than a supplemental draft pick. It's a better bet and a more sure bet than any other shot that we've ever done in franchise history at getting a franchise quarterback. Point blank, period. Not saying it's going to be the only one that worked out. Obviously, Bernie Kosar worked out, but this is the highest percentage shot that we ever taken, right? Baker Mayfield coming out of Oklahoma was not the same percentage of, hey, he could be a franchise quarterback that Deshaun Watson, who's already been one, is. In the same with Tim Couch. And those are the only two quarterbacks this franchise has ever drafted number one overall. This is the best shot that we've ever had. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, then it's going to be like what's always happened when a quarterback doesn't work out in this city. You know, we know the answer to that question. We've lived through the answer to that question. So, you know, it doesn't change just because the name's Deshaun Watson. We're going to try to do everything to make sure that works. We're going to scramble through coaches, GMs, players to make sure that works. If we get to the point to where it's just not going to work and we can move away from the contract, that's what's going to happen. But if it does work out, then we ain't going to be worrying about this no more. So that's kind of the situation there. Basher with the next question says, hey, Q, do you still believe in Winfrey? He did go through some things last year. Was it just rookie not adjusting, or was it more of a discipline problem? Expectations from a year two? Well, I mean, like, there's not really a lot of defensive tackles that hit the ground running on year one. Jordan Davis might be the most NFL ready prospect I've ever seen, and he still didn't like play a bunch in Philly. So I think it was a lot of expectations for a player in year one at a position where year one production is not common. So there was that. Yeah, did he have to learn some things last year? Obviously. Was he a rookie adjusting to things? Obviously. And I think he sparked at the end of last year. I don't think this is like he's a terrible person or he's being lazy or anything like that. It's just defensive tackles take a while to bloom. You know, some of them take 2-3 years. Some of them, like Javon Hargraves was not Javon Hargrave 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, he was just some dude on the Steelers that was a 3-tech, or not a 3-tech, a 1-tech, a 0-tech. We weren't talking about him like we talk about him now. It happens. Defensive tackles just take a while to develop. Perion Winfrey in year one didn't hit the ground running, but outside of Aaron Donald, how many defensive tackles really do? It's a good question to ask. But yeah, I think that was more or less like, that's the big thing. Everything else you can technically attribute to Perion's down year in year one, but I think it would be an unfair thing when you look at the overall picture of what position players in that position do coming out the draft. It's just not a lot. Ian says, hey, Q, with Woods unfortunately being out for the year, do you think this means that the Browns will end up targeting another wide receiver in the draft? I know we do this thing where we overhype late round picks and then we get mad when they don't pan out and then we call them bust, but no disrespect to Michael Woods. And I hope Michael Woods recovers and he makes a team one day. Michael Woods was not guaranteed a roster spot. So if a player wasn't guaranteed a roster spot and he goes down for the year, it doesn't change anything because they weren't planning on him being there. Nobody that's in a competition should be relied on. So no, that changes nothing. If the Browns get a wide receiver, it's not because Michael Woods went down. It's because they were going to add another wide receiver to that room. If they don't get another wide receiver, it's not because Michael Woods went down or was healthy. It's because they didn't feel like they needed to add more wide receivers. I don't think Michael Woods moves that needle one way or the other. No disrespect to him. I like him. I think he has a lot more to him than most 6th or 7th round picks, but I'm not going to act like he was like this is a question you ask when like Donovan Peoples-Jones goes down. Yeah, like, do you make a move for wide receiver when Donovan Peoples-Jones goes down? Yes. Amari Cooper? Yes. Elijah Moore? Yes. Mike Woods just wasn't at that point. You know, he was trying to make the roster. So not really thinking that's going to move the needle. Gerard Proper says, hey, Q, Browns win total is set up for over under 9.5. Last I heard it was 8.5, but we'll see. My question is, how many wins do you think we can get with an improved defense and coaching staff? Also, how many yards and touchdowns does Watson throw for being in a revised offense? Thank you, Q. Why do y'all want me to do this? You know what I mean? Like, I cannot tell you what his touchdowns, like, that's all going to be relative to, one, the matchups. When those matchups happen throughout the year, that's almost impossible to do before the schedule even comes out. What I can say is this is what they have done to improve the defense. This is what they have done to improve the quarterback position. If you feel like that is enough for more than 10 wins or a certain number on Watson's touchdown to interception ratio, then that's what you have to do. But I can't make that determination sitting here in good faith, thinking that that's going to be a good guess, because I haven't even seen Deshaun Watson take snaps in what's going to be this revised offense yet. We need more time before we make these swiping and grand declarations of what are, well, concrete declarations of what our win-loss record is going to be. It is April. You know what I mean? Like, it's all hypothetical. Any team can feel like they can win 10 or 11 games, but we got to see something first. We got to actually see them put this thing down, and not in shells, but like in pads. This is a question for August, right? Not a question for April, because in April, we're still talking about what can improve this team. We don't even know who they're going to draft, let alone a win-loss record. So, you know, this is a period where we're talking about improvement, what the Browns have done. But as far as a win-loss record, like, yeah, I could technically give one. Anybody can, but I would be doing, I think, the people who listen to this channel or watch this channel a disservice if I was like out here trying to sell them a win-loss record at this point. I do think vaguely that the Browns should probably make the playoffs this year. So if you think 10 or 11 wins is what you need, then yeah. But I'm not about to tell you what to bet on right now, because I'm going to be mad at me about that when you're trying to bet too early. You know what I mean? There ain't enough information. But do with that as you will. Take your feelings about what the Browns have done to improve and then translate that into what you think. But I haven't seen enough to make an educated guess. And I wouldn't come out here and just be making random guesses for y'all, because I know y'all expect more from me than that. Mr. Camtastic says, hey, all right, this has been heavy on the mind the way I see it. 20% chance that Deshaun Watson is back where he was last year. 60% chance he's back to Houston, Deshaun Watson, and 20% chance that Steph elevates him. How do you feel about the breakdown? This is not probabilities, man. Like, we not putting Deshaun Watson on a roulette wheel and spinning him and seeing what comes out. Like, this is not that. We're making this is Deshaun Watson. He's in a better offense. He's in a situation where he trusts his coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball, at least. He has the weapons that he feels like he needs. He should be back to at least Houston Deshaun Watson levels. I'm not going to talk about this in probabilities, because this is not a probability thing, right? Like, this is like showing up to work. There's not a probability if I'm going to be on time. It's either I'm going to be on time or I'm not. And if I'm not on time, it's about what I didn't do to be on time. This is not that, right? Like, this is that situation. My bad. I misspoke. But this is that situation. Deshaun Watson's ability to get back to what he's always been is on Deshaun Watson. So if he does the work, he should be back. There's no reason why he shouldn't. This is not random. This is not gambling. This is a dude going back to work. So if he puts in the work, if he's focused, he should be back to being Houston Deshaun Watson. Now, is there a chance that Stefanski elevates him? Of course. That's up to Kevin. Right? If you are expecting Kevin, that's his job. But doing this as if it's probability does a disservice to the accountability of the situation, because we go, bad luck, Deshaun just wasn't back to where he was. No, it's not that. He's 27 years old. He doesn't have the wear and tear of a normal 27-year-old in here, and he shook off the rust last year. He should be back to what he was at some point during this season. That's up to him. And the expectations for him internally for himself probably are much higher than what I'm saying right now. So no, I'm not. I don't like breaking this down into probabilities. This is not a probability question with Deshaun Watson. This is he should be back to something. The bar should be set somewhere. This isn't craps. We ain't rolling the dice. He should be this good because this is what he was in the NFL before. We're putting him in a better situation. It's up to him to reach those expectations. These are expectations, not probabilities, and they should be treated as such. The next question comes from Seaman, who says, why do you that Pittsburgh fans actually think that Pickett is good? Why do I think that Pittsburgh fans think that Pickett is? I mean, come on now. Like we understand what's going on in Pittsburgh more than even people in Pittsburgh understand what's going on in Pittsburgh, which is they doing that thing, right? That thing that we have done in this city for years, that thing that we've seen other teams do is convince themselves that somebody is what they isn't. And I say it that way on purpose. Don't correct me in the comment section. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to convince themselves three things at once. Remember the Baker Mayfield conversation was, hey, is Baker Mayfield better than this guy? And people would be like, yeah, Baker Mayfield's a top 10 quarterback. And then in the same breath, when people say Baker Mayfield's not a top 10 quarterback, we will retreat to, well, we only need Baker Mayfield to be this. This is only so good that you need him to be. You can win games with Andy Dalton. Da, 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 da. And we would say mid is okay, basically, at quarterback. This is what they're doing with Kenny Pickett. They know he's not that good, but they're trying to justify their excitement around him, which means that they're just going to be doing the same stuff we did, dog. Like, remember how we convinced ourselves that Deshaun Kaiser could develop into something if he had a better coaching staff around him? Remember how we convinced ourselves that Brian Hoyer could be a franchise quarterback? Remember how we convinced ourselves that Brandon Weeden wasn't that bad? It was the coaching situation around him. Remember how we convinced ourselves that Colt McCoy wasn't Colt McCoy? Remember how we convinced ourselves about Baker Mayfield? Remember how we have convinced ourselves about literally name a mediocre quarterback that wasn't objectively terrible, my bad, in this city. And we've convinced ourselves that it wasn't that bad. That's what they're doing with Kenny Pickett, right? And they're going to be just as annoying about it as we were about Baker Mayfield. This is the exact same thing. This is the exact same thing. Like, it's so funny to me when like Browns fans and Steelers fans act like they could not be any more different. And it's like, you guys are the exact same. We are the exact same to Pittsburgh fans. We just cheer for a different team. That's the only difference. We're the same sports fan. Like, it is hilarious though, that to watch them basically do the Baker Mayfield dance, which they made fun of us for. Right. And it's real easy to make fun of people for doing that when you ain't lived through that reality. And now they're living through the Baker Mayfield experience. And given what I've seen from Kenny Pickett, they'll probably be doing it again with another quarterback in like 3 years. So, yeah, this is just what they're doing. But that's it for this Q&A. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.